Welcome to Caregivers, Nourishment and Nurturing. This project was made possible by a grant from the Nova Scotia Department of Communities, Culture, Tourism and Heritage. How do I know I'm feeding the right things? Put another way, am I doing this right? Typically, when someone is wondering what to feed their person, they look online or in books for information on what to feed someone living with blank, the blank referring to a diagnosis or a condition that a person is living with. For example, the blank might mean eating when one has a neurological condition such as ALS or Parkinson's disease, or some form of cancer. Very often and unfortunately, the person is provided with information about eating for people who are healthy and looking to prevent developing a chronic health condition. It is important to recognize that this type of advice is for preventing illness, not for people living with a condition. This can be confusing. An ideal phrase to describe this confusion is dietary cacophony. Dietary cacophony is the noise that we hear or read about, that is shared with us, and that arises from our own thoughts about how we should eat, in quotes, or feed another. Very often, these should messages are based on chronic disease prevention strategies, so it can be challenging to figure out what to feed a person living with illness, disability, or any kind of change in health status. There are two ways to determine the answer to, how do I know I'm doing this right? Number one is to conduct a quick nutrition assessment. This involves comparing a person's food intake, that is, the amount of food eaten, to what was normal for them, and assessing any changes in weight status, that is, has the person gained, maintained, or lost weight. More on this in a bit. If you are a numbers person, you calculate food intakes compared to nutrition recommendations. More on this in a bit. Instructions for conducting a quick nutrition assessment. To assess food intake, assess what and how much the person is currently eating compared to when their appetite was normal. Do they eat smaller amounts? If food intake is about the same, you can take comfort that your person is eating enough energy. We often express that in calories. If their intake is less than it has been, please see Section 2, What to Do when a person has little to no appetite. We can assess weight status by observing a person over time and checking how clothing is fitting. Is it looser, tighter, or the same? This is a way to assess weight status without using a scale. If the person's weight is steady, they are eating enough. If the person's weight is steady, however, they weigh less than they used to, it is a good sign that they are now eating enough. To regain weight, it is a matter of eating more, or to make the food that is eaten more nutritionally dense, that is, higher in energy and protein. The second way to assess food intake is to compare food intake with estimated needs for energy, protein, and fluid. This approach is for people who are often referred to as numbers people. Remember, doing this arithmetic is not necessary. The quick nutrition assessment to assess someone's food intake and weight status is absolutely fine. Calculating nutrition needs and adequacy of food intake using the approach described here is not a substitute for a professional nutrition assessment and nutrition care plan that is developed by a registered dietitian. Please see Section 6 on finding a dietitian. To undertake a nutrition assessment, track intake using a nutrient tracking app or software, and compare recommendations to actual intake. This results in an estimate only. Once we know how actual intake compares to the recommendations, we will know whether to continue the established feeding routine or to adjust to increase or decrease intake. Please note that when using a food tracking app, it is required to record very precise amounts of food intake so that the app is able to provide an accurate output of the amount of protein and energy consumed, as well as other nutrients. Calculating energy needs. If your care recipient does not move around much, Multiply their weight in kilograms by 28 calories per kilogram per day. That will give you the amount of energy the person requires in a day. So for instance, a person who weighs 70 kilograms, their energy needs would be 70 times 28, or 1960 calories, rounded to about 2,000 calories per day. For a more active person, energy needs are increased to 30 calories per kilogram per day. So the same 70 kilogram person would need 2,100 kilocalories per day. The more active a person, or if they have fever or wounds, their energy needs will increase. For a person retaining fluid, consider what their dry weight is. We don't consider water weight when estimating energy needs. Calculating protein needs. Generally, protein needs are 1.0 grams of protein per kilogram of weight per day. For a 70 kilogram person, their needs are 70 grams of protein, which comes from 1 multiplied by 70. Protein needs increase with fever, infection, wounds, or fractures. For a more precise assessment of a person's protein needs, consult a registered dietitian. To learn about the protein content of food by serving size, use a nutrition tracking app or download this brochure from Nova Scotia Health. Calculating fluid needs. Generally, fluid needs are 30 mils per kilogram of body weight per day. For a 70 kilogram person, they would need 2,100 mils of fluid per day. This includes liquid that comes from beverages, as well as liquids from food and foods that are liquid at room temperature, such as yogurt, ice cream, dairy milk, plant-based beverages, soups, and from water contained in solid foods such as in fruits, berries, vegetables, and tofu. When assessing whether fluid intake is appropriate, consider fluid output that comes from urine, note the amount and color, stool, is it watery? Sweat, does the care recipient have a fever? Wounds, does the person have breathing challenges? All of these will make a difference to fluid needs. Assessing fiber needs. Fiber needs vary depending on the person's history of intestinal conditions and medication use, especially pain medications. Please consult with your healthcare provider or a registered dietitian for information on how much fiber your person should be consuming.